do is continue working on addition of negative and positive numbers, also called real numbers. And this time we're going to introduce a little bit of algebra and a little bit of variables into the mix here. So what we're going to do for these problems is not hard, but what I'm going to do is write down a few things. I'm going to say to you to basically take as fact that the variable x is equal to 2, the variable y is equal to negative 3, the variable z is equal to negative 4, and the variable u is equal to 5. And what we're going to do is work a few problems where we're dealing with x's and y's and z's and u's. Now, when you see variables in algebra, variable is just a letter. Now, a lot of times you see that and a lot of students seize up, you know, they don't know what to do. There's a letter there. Letters are just part of the alphabet. You've been dealing with letters probably before you were ever dealing with numbers, right? Or at least so long ago, letters should not scare you. When you see a letter in math, it just means that you don't know what that value is equal to. You know, I may be solving a problem where I'm trying to calculate the temperature in this room, but I don't know what the temperature is. So I might call it T, temperature T, right? T for temperature. And then I might do all my calculations and I find out that T is equal to 80 degrees. Or T is equal to 75 degrees. So I've solved for the answer I wanted with T. T is temperature, right? In this case, there's some variable x, and there's some variable y, and there's some variable z, and there's some variable u, but I already know what they're equal to ahead of time here, in this particular example, just because I'm trying to get you used to the idea of seeing letters in terms of algebra. So when you see them, don't freak out. In this case, we know what they're equal to. Now, since we know what they are, let's calculate a few things. What would x plus y equal to? A lot of students would look at x plus y and suddenly, you know, get scared because it's, oh my gosh, it's letters. This is nothing hard. You know what x is equal to. It's equal to 2. You know what y is equal to. It's equal to negative 3. So all you do is you substitute in the values that you know from what you see up here as defined on the board, and then you calculate the answer. So here x is 2, so you literally put 2 plus y is negative 3, so we just say negative 3. So you see, all we've done is we've taken what we know and we've substituted in there. Now we're dealing purely with numbers and we can calculate the answer here because we've been doing that all along. Here we're adding two things together with different signs. So we cover up the signs, we subtract 3 minus 2 gives us 1. The answer there, the sign there is going to match the sign of the larger number. In this case, it's going to be negative because the bigger number here is 3. So the answer there is negative 1. So when you see any kind of deal where you're trying to substitute in, you just literally put those numbers where they go. So here we have x plus u plus 3. So here we have x, there's a 2. Remember to keep the parentheses around because you have to match it exactly as it's written. Plus u. U is defined to be 5 plus 3. So all we have done is taken what we know and put it into our problem. And now it's very easy. 2 plus 5, we always do what's inside the parentheses first. 2 plus 5 is 7 plus 3. 7 plus 3 is 10. And that is our answer. Notice we have positive plus positive gives us positive. Here we had positive plus positive. That gave us positive. So we're using all of the rules that we have learned up to this point in algebra. It's just that, for positive numbers, you already know those from when you were a little kid. All right, now let's look at another one. Let's say we have x plus z plus u plus z. What would this be equal to? Well, we just substitute in. X is 2, so we'll have a 2 here. Z is over here, negative 4. It's plus a negative 4. Let's do it as negative 4. Just keep it clean like this. So this is 2 plus a negative 4. And then we add to that whatever's in here. U plus z. U is 5 plus z is negative 4. So make sure you understand that. We have kept everything intact. We just put the numbers in wherever we needed to. So what is this here? If we do what's inside of this parenthesis first. 2 plus a negative 4. We have different signs. So in order to get the answer, we ignore the signs. We subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2. The sign of the answer takes the sign of the bigger number. In that case, it takes a negative sign. And then over here, we are adding together two things with different signs. So we ignore the signs and subtract. 5 minus 1 5 minus 4 is 1, and it takes the sign of the bigger number. So in this case, it takes a positive, like this. So when we rewrite everything, what we have is negative 2 from there, plus 1. Negative 2 plus 1. And to get the answer here, we're adding together two things that have different signs. So we ignore the sign, we subtract 2 minus 1 is 1, and we take the sign of the larger number, which is negative. So we get an answer of negative 1 there. All right, let me go and erase this, and we'll do a few more where we're basically going to substitute these same numbers into our problem. Here, this is an exercise in learning how to add, basically learning how to add negative positive numbers. The letters here are just trying to get you comfortable with seeing some letters in algebra and how to substitute in the values of these variables into your problem. All right, let's say we have x plus, and inside this bracket here we have 5 plus y plus u, close parentheses, close bracket. And this is what we're trying to do. First thing we need to do is substitute in for everything that we have. So we know that x is equal to 2, so that's going to go out here. So I'll put it like an equal sign here. And then we have on the inside, we have a 5 plus, inside here we have a y, which is negative 3, plus u, which is 5. Close and close, like this. All right, now we need to figure out what to do next. We have a bracket, but then we have parentheses inside the bracket. And when we do order of operations, we always go to the most inside parentheses first and do that first and work our way out. So we have to go in here first and do this first. Negative 3 plus 5. We're adding together two things with different signs. So we ignore the sign. We subtract 5 minus 3 and get 2. And then the sign of the answer takes the sign of the bigger number, in this case positive. So we get a positive 2 here. So if we're going to rewrite this, let me switch colors. If we rewrite our problem here, we have 2 plus, we'll open the bracket, here we have 5 plus, this entire parentheses is actually 2. This looks much, much simpler, does it not? Okay, so inside of here, 5 plus 2, I think you would agree, is just simply 7. And so the answer we get is 2 plus 7, which is 9. So the answer is 9. And you see, you're just taking it one step at a time. You're substituting in, you're doing inside parentheses, working your way out, and you're taking it and you're tackling it logically. See, math is all about logic. It's all about learning the rules and then applying the rules in sequence. If you don't learn the rules, then you can't get the answers right. It's just impossible. All right, so next, let's say we have absolute value of 2x plus y. We'll close the absolute value off. So let's go ahead and substitute in what we know. 2 times x, x is 2. So I'll put a 2 here. I'll put a parentheses to mean multiplication. 2 with a parentheses like this, it just means you're multiplying these together. And then I'm going to add y in, which is negative 3. All right, like this. Now, order of operations tells us we have to do what's inside of the absolute value first. And it also tells us is that if we're looking in here and we have multiplication and we have addition, we always do the multiplication first. So what is 2 times 2? Ladies and gentlemen, 2 times 2 is just 4. Okay? So what we really have is absolute value of 4 plus negative 3. Like this. This is what we really have. And then if we're trying to deal with what's inside of here first, what is 4 plus a negative 3? We're adding together two things with different signs. So we ignore the sign. We subtract 4 minus 3 and we get 1. And we take the sign of the larger number, which is positive. So at the end of the day, what we have is absolute value of 1, which is simply 1. When you do the absolute value, you just take the sign away. This was already positive to begin with, and so you get that answer. We'll erase the board and we'll do a couple more here to show you how to get more practice. All right, so what we have here is absolute value of x plus z, we'll close the absolute value off, plus another absolute value, x plus y plus z, close this guy off. So, it looks complicated, lots of letters, lots of absolute values. You know, before you started this lesson, that might worry you a little bit, but it's not hard because we just substitute in. X is 2, plus z here is negative 4. So I'll put negative 4, close the absolute value off. And then the other guy I'll open, x is 2, y is negative 3, z is negative 4. like this. So here we have x plus z. Here we have x plus y plus z. Okay? And so let's go ahead and do what's inside of here, right here. And so what we'll have is adding two things together with different signs. So we ignore the signs. 4 minus 2 gives you 2. This is going to take the sign of the larger number. So what we're actually going to have is negative 2 there. All right, now inside of here, we really need to do everything inside of here, right? Because this is all inside of the absolute value. But when we have addition like this, we're going to go left to right. And this is all from order of operations. So first we're going to add these two numbers, and then we're going to add the last one. You know, this is just like 2 plus 3 plus 4. When you add them all together, you add the first two, 2 plus 3, you can get that answer, and then you add 4. You just keep adding left to right, right? So we're doing the exact same thing here. So let's go ahead and do this one first. 2 plus a negative 3. They're different, so we ignore the signs. 3 minus 2 gives me 1, and it takes the sign of the larger number. So that actually turns out to be negative 1. So now, if we go and try to do the whole thing, since we know that this is actually negative 1, it's really negative 1 plus negative 4. So how do we do negative 1 plus negative 4? Well, they're both negative, right? So the answer is always going to be negative, and since they're both negative, we add them together. 1 plus 4 is 5. So the answer to this whole thing inside there is negative 5. So if you're going to rewrite it, it would be absolute value of negative 2 plus absolute value of negative 5. What's the absolute value of negative 2? You just take the sign away. Absolute value of negative 5, you take the sign away. 2 plus 5 is 7. So the answer is positive 7.